So it's day 6, Saturday, I think, the 21st of January 2023. We're at continuing southwest. We're now at a latitude of 23 degrees north, which puts us pretty much on the Tropic of Cancer. So same latitude as Muscat, my home. And we're now camping in the middle of a vast sand area at an altitude of 3,300 feet. And the strong wind that's been blowing from the south all day has thankfully eased off because we couldn't find any shelter whatsoever. So hopefully if it stays nice and calm, we'll have a reasonable night's sleep. Temperatures have risen, which is good. Last night was much more comfortable. And last night's campsite was quite fantastic. It was an unexpected little hidden valley tucked in behind a mountain full of beautiful acacia trees. And the only complaint was that the trees were so large that Reem was unable to get the strap for the camera trap around the trunk of some of the trees. They were such big trees, lovely old acacia trees. So that was a gorgeous campsite. Quite windy, sadly, and so therefore quite cold, but very, very pretty. We were woken at about 11 last night when having not seen almost anybody, a single living soul yesterday, at about 11 o'clock last night when we were all in our sleeping bags, a vehicle arrived with big spotlights over the top of a sand dune, and I don't know who had a bigger shock, us or them, when they shone their light around the campsite and picked up our vehicles. And Alan, who sleeps on a camp bed, Reem and Anna are each sleeping in tents. I sleep on the floor on an old mat. I think they were quite shocked, so they didn't hang around too long and they cleared off. But other than that, a nice calm night. And so Reem and I set off about 8:30 this morning. Several hours walking, probably about 12 kilometres up and down. Fantastic countryside, so beautiful. Basalt hills, low basalt hills, sort of interspersed with sand, and you really do feel you're the only people on the planet. And had Matt Damon walked around the corner with his Mars outfit on, it wouldn't have taken me by surprise, really, because it really is quite a lunar landscape, but one of great beauty. Nonetheless, not so many eagles today. We had 13 eagles in the air at one time the day before, which was just quite spectacular. But not so many eagles today. On the subject of the camera traps, Reem has diligently been putting those traps out every night. We've had about 60-75% success rate, I would say. So we put a tin of smelly tuna down under a tree that's a reasonable distance away from where we're sleeping, and then we rig the camera trap up, and during the night, if anything comes to eat that tuna, then we will be able to record it on the camera trap. Sadly, we don't see the results until we hand the camera back to Roxanne Whelan and her team of ecologists at KAUST, the university just north of Jeddah, but hopefully we're contributing something to Roxanne and her team's knowledge of mammals in Central Arabia. On leg one, we had some lovely footage that Roxanne sent us when she went through the SIM card of all the video clips that had been captured. A lovely fox, jerboa, and a couple of gerbils. So we have no idea what's been taking the bait this time, but we look forward to seeing the results of those. But really, I think today was a great example of patience getting its reward, because one of the other science projects that we're doing is, and Alan is particularly taking an oversight of, is looking for evidence that this vast central desert was once occupied in reasonably large numbers when the climate was very, very different and the vegetation and the landscape was very, very different. And the evidence for that lies under your feet in the form of stone arrowheads, some of which are beautifully worked and faced and incredibly sharp. Even today when you find them, if you rake the point across the palm of your hand, you'll draw blood quite easily, despite them being several thousand years old. But much, much older than that are hand axes. And hand axes are beautifully shaped stone tools that fit in the palm of your hand. You can wrap your fingers around the top of them, kind of teardrop shaped, and the point at the bottom would be used perhaps to break the skull or the skeleton or the bones of an animal that you've been able to catch as a result of your hunting with your arrowheads. Now, after our walk this morning, Reem and I, lots of ups and downs, so it might only have been 13 kilometres in a straight line, but we did much more than that, weaving in and around. So it was nice to see Alan and Anna in the support vehicles. We jumped in with them, and we covered a bit of ground to a place where Alan had found a hand axe many years ago, so we knew that there was a potential of finding some. So we probably spent about 2 hours this afternoon pacing backwards and forwards, zigzag, hands clasped firmly behind back like a policeman on duty, staring at the ground, but nothing. And really we were at the point of giving up and just getting on for campsite. It was 4 o'clock, I think, by the time we'd finished the second search, and again, 4 of us searching in a line, absolutely nothing. And then we came to the final site, and it was just so exciting. Within less than 5 minutes of getting out of the vehicles, we'd found multiple hand axes, and these hand axes are unbelievably considered to be hundreds of thousands of years old. So goodness knows what the hand that touched that stone tool, the last hand, looked like. We are not allowed to touch them. We photograph them. We have a ruler that we put by the side of them so that the scientists get a sense of scale and size. We GPS the location, the exact location, that we're not going to share it with anybody other than the scientists, because these are part of Saudi Arabia's national heritage, and they must remain here. But we'll send all the data. Alan's got a busy time now, because I think in the end, having not found anything for 3 weeks of looking since we left the east coast of Saudi Arabia, all of a sudden we're on a site that's really rich, and I think we found 6 or 8. I lost count in the end, because once you find one, you develop the eye for what they look like, and you find more. So absolutely beautiful. One of them pure white, made out of quartz. One of them pure black, probably made out of basalt or obsidian or something like that. Really, really hard rock. So that was a really, really exciting end to the day, and put a real spring in our steps. And so probably the latest arrival at campsite we've had, literally half an hour before sunset. We didn't really find anywhere that's sheltered, but thankfully the wind has dropped, which is great, and all the stars are out again. There's not a hint of light pollution in any direction right now. If I look to the west, I can see Jupiter and Saturn and Venus all up together in the sky. It's absolutely spectacular. And at this point of his journey, Philby, like us, was about to exit this area of land that he called the Central Najd Highlands, this high plateau in central Arabia, this row after row, line of mountains, mountain ranges, line after line, interspersed with sand. And that's what Reem and I have been, and Alan and Anna have been navigating over the last several days. But in his book, Heart of Arabia, Philby wrote, as always, with quite very colourful language, and with a real sense of regret that he was leaving this landscape, because clearly he would like to have spent much more time. Such was the sort of geographical curiosity that he had. And he says that of the general features of these gaunt and sparsely populated highlands, whose area cannot well be less than some 10,000 square miles, I have in these pages given a description sufficiently, if not indeed excessively, detailed. I would very much agree with the latter. Philby didn't do anything in scant detail. His details are incredibly excessive. I now pass for them, probably to see them no more, regretting that the speed of travel imposed on me by the purpose of my journey had permitted of no deviation from the track trodden by the pilgrims of centuries, hastening even as we hastened on the road to the holy city, and conscious that in the Najd properly so called, the true highlands of central Arabia, whose limits I have attempted to define, I had left for the wanderers of the future, well, that may be us, many a knotty problem unattempted, and many a hidden mystery unsolved. Well, I think that's a great way to leave anywhere. Many a knotty problem unattempted, and many a hidden mystery unsolved. Of the three great mountain chains, and the tumbled confusion of sand billows and basalt rocks which complete the quadruple barrier, of the tempest playing over the massive granite mountains, of the rain-washed red rocks of the Hamra glistening in the sunlight, of the mighty mountains dimly seen in the far south, of the charming groves and dingy villages and solitary turreted granges, of all these I carried away with me memories which words cannot describe or time efface. And I would agree with that. It's so hard to put it into words, and Philby was so much better with words than I am. But it is an extraordinary landscape, and Philby described it as 150, 200 miles of nothing, but it wasn't nothing. He was quite dismissive sometimes, but actually he went into such detail. There's so much to see, and we've really enjoyed the last few days of our journey. Tomorrow's going to be our last day in the central Najd Highlands. We're heading towards a place called Uruk Subai, an area of sand, and there we enter another area of central Arabia, heading southwest towards the mountains of the Hijaz and the city of Taif, and there we'll gain a lot of altitude before we descend down to the sea to Jeddah, but we've got quite a few miles to get under our belt before we reach Taif. I think today is Saturday. We'll probably reach Taif on Thursday, Friday, so we've got 4 or 5 days of more plodding, but if the days ahead are anything like today has been and yesterday was, then we're really looking forward to it.